Yeah. Welcome to the podcast. Today we have Keturah Charlesworth, and she is from Quality HQ. And what she does is she doesn't get people past their audit. She makes it so their quality just lasts. And what blows me away with you, Keturah, is you're not just like audit focused like most people are. They run around like chooks with their heads cut off for a month and a half before their audit. You just put yourself in people's businesses and then you just make sure that things are working in their business, not just on their paperwork. Now, that's pretty crazy. Why might I think that's really cool? Why might I think that's time well spent, money well spent?
Oh, look. Well, first off, no one wants to run around for a month and a half before their audit like a chicken with its head cut off. It alleviates a lot of that fear factor. And I think a lot of the fear factor comes from compliance being built for standards, which people don't necessarily understand, or the people who have their feet on the street who are doing the work every day aren't necessarily neck deep in what the standards mean. So when your quality framework's built for your clients, for your workforce, for your organisation, it makes sense. People align with it. They're naturally compliant. Compliance is the outcome.
I like it. So
Yeah.
compliance is the outcome of just doing things properly. Let's run straight to the pain. Directors don't want to spend another cent on something non-billable if they can avoid it. And let's be real, that's compliance, and that's what quality is almost a word people use when they mean compliance because it somehow justifies we're throwing money at something non-billable. And yet, and directors also don't want to get a phone call from NDIA saying, hey, you're out of compliance here and here's the consequences. So you've got that factor going. You've got the factor that your staff are already busy and overwhelmed and throwing their time into things that are supposed to generate money. And then compliance, or other words, quality, takes their focus off that and puts it on something non-billable. But I don't know any directors who do audit themselves with a smile on their face. I coach these people. They're great. They're flourishing. I'm watching their business grow for months and then suddenly it's audit time and it's like they just check out for 6 weeks. It's like life goes on hold. And people don't realize that till the time. And they save themselves a couple of grand on audit because they did so much of it themselves. But I'm just like, goodness me, ask your wife if that was worth it. So I guess, Keturah, what goes through your mind when I say running to the pain? These are the things that make it hard for directors to be excited about the sort of work that you do, even though you and I know the sort of work you do is darn important.
Yeah. And look, and I think that's part of what I have to remind myself of because the work actually makes me excited. I have to remind myself that not everybody feels the same. But look, it is where it becomes more meaningful to your organization than it just being what passes your audit. It's having systems that provide you insight to your clients. You're really having a good incident management framework that provides you with insight. It's data. It's not just ticking boxes and saying I've aligned with the standards. It's how you support your workforce. It's how you support your clients, rather than it being something separate to how you care for your clients. And again, coming back to the non-billable thing, having this information it's almost like insurance in some cases. We don't want to pay for insurance right up until the point where we need it. But if you've got the right insurance in place, the return on your investment is where it's at. You don't spend money if you think about your hourly rate, when you're 6 weeks out from your audit, putting all of the extra work in because you need to backpedal and go through all of these things that you're still trying to get your head around and understanding how they relate to your organization, your culture, your clients, your workforce. If they were built for you, that's just part of business as usual. It doesn't become this big chunk of non-billable work. It's part of that business as usual. It becomes part of your infrastructure, but a valuable part as well. That means that you reduce risk. You reduce exposure. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So no one wants insurance. I don't want to pay for insurance.
No.
I sure as heck don't want to be uninsured though. And I guess you're like the insurance company. But you're saying, I'm more than an insurance company. I come in, I'll refine your systems. I'll refine your processes. I'll help you spend your time on things that actually have an impact. So in that way, Keturah, you're a bit like, say, Amy Gray. Okay. If someone pays Amy Gray to come and train their staff, they're like, oh, that's an expense. but the impact is she imparts a level of leadership that other people can't impart. You're doing the same with people's systems. Okay, so, and then I look at sort of the work that you do. It's different from, say, Tanya Gomez or, say, Lofa Consulting or you know, the people who get people through audit, because what you do is you sort of embed yourself in someone's business, but you're not a staff member. You're a contractor.
Yep.
So I hear a lot of businesses say to me, oh, Michael, I'm going to get an internal quality person, you know, like a version of Keturah. And I'm like, what, you're going to pay 80 grand a year plus super plus the cost of other expenses to have someone come and do your paperwork for you? What the heck? Pay a contractor. And so I guess, Keturah, you're a contractor. You go into people's businesses for like a fifth of that or something, or a quarter, who knows what. And you solve their stuff without them taking on an internal person. Why on earth are people telling me, Keturah, I'm going to get an internal person to come and, one, they don't have the experience of doing 20 other people's compliance. Two, heck, that's an expensive way of doing things. It's like, you know, buying a car by buying a car factory. If I want a sausage roll for lunch, I don't buy a bakery. I just buy a sausage roll. Like, why are they spending their money on that?
Look, I think some organisations have the infrastructure that can make it beneficial, depending on the skill set of the quality person they get in. So there's changes and there's things that go on someone to be focused just on that in their organisation. But for organisations who aren't, I think the organisations who do, or anyone who's considering getting someone in, I would recommend doing a risk assessment of it, which is hilarious. But really asking yourself what the driving factor is. And I think in a lot of cases, it's fear. In a lot of cases, it's, I don't understand it. And it's that fear of not being confident in it themselves. That means that they kind of feel like they can, delegate, outsource, I guess, or insource if they get someone on board. But, you know, in reality, part of what I do when I work with organisations is make sure that they understand it, because that's where the key is you actually understanding the benefit and how it works. And so you can manage it ongoing without needing someone internal or external, because really your compliance happens day to day in all of the things that everybody in your organisation does. So the thing to consider is why you're getting someone in. What's the consideration? Because whilst they can certainly support the process, they don't hold responsibility for your compliance and you aligning with it. That's the job of everybody in your organisation. Similarly to having a work health and safety manager in your organisation. They can put some great frameworks and they can keep those systems going in the background, but it's actually your entire workforce that needs to align with it in order for you to be, you know, compliant and safe.
Yeah, that makes sense, Keturah. Okay,
Yeah.
so I guess when you said it's fear that inspires someone to employ a staff member they don't need. You know, it's like, I don't fear the ATO because I pay my taxes and I pay an accountant to make sure that my BAS is sorted and my taxes all sorted, all that stuff.
Yep.
I don't fear Fair Work because I'm like, well, just employ people properly. I pay when I was a provider, I paid an external organisation to make sure that all my hiring documentation was on track, all our record keeper was on track. I don't live in fear of the ATO because it's ticked off, it's sorted. I don't live in fear of Fair Work because I do it once, do it right by people who are a lot smarter than I am. And I guess there's got to be a way that people can do that, can set aside their fear by having a level of quality in their compliance that they're pretty compliant. You know, like, it's very rare that I ever see an organisation that's 100% compliant in everything, unless they're literally like they're not making money, because their whole focus would be compliance. You're always going to be like 90% compliant, 95. You're always going to have these gaps because you start something new and then you patch it. You realize, oh, heck, we left an area over there. You're always working. It's an ongoing process. I guess, what goes through your thoughts when I say, how do we deal with that fear?
I think the fear is compliance. I think the fear is compliance, and the solution is quality. Because a quality framework's built for you and your organisation. The fear is the unknown. The fear is, you know, sort of going, the standard says this, but I don't know what I need, what I don't need. It's that, I work with a lot of organizations who it's the fear of what they're missing is in a lot of cases as well. This and not being able to translate the standards across health and human services are very rarely prescriptive. Very rarely do they tell you exactly what you need to do, step by step, this bit and this bit. And a lot of organizations find that scary, because if you don't tell me exactly what I need to know, it's hard to translate standards into practice, and people become fearful in that gap.
Because it's subjective.
In that space.
If you just give me 1,000 forms, I'll sign them and I'm done. But if you just give me criteria and I have to meet them my own way, we've reduced it to subjectivity.
Yes, absolutely. And also, I mean, that's where organizations end up adopting, you were talking before about non-billable tasks. When you don't have a quality system that's built for your organization, I guarantee you your non-billable work is much more labor intensive. You're trying to work within systems that aren't designed for you and your workforce. They might actually be more than you need because you have adopted a system that is kind of a catch-all from a compliance perspective, but you might not actually need all of the bells and whistles and everything else that goes along with it. You could actually streamline a lot of what you do and still remain compliant without doing all of these extra bits and pieces that get thrown on, so that, some of the systems that are out there that are offered to people are one size fits all. And whilst that doesn't make them bad, it just means that some people adopt them and feel like they need to adopt the entire thing, where they could actually streamline it and it could still be successful, insightful, and supportive of their organisation and their clients.
Okay, that's gold. That's absolute gold. What you're saying makes sense. It's the fear that we're not compliant because we were given, the criteria of you must be able to demonstrate A, B, and C. We weren't given a piece of paper by the government how to do it. So then we go and pay an external organisation to tick off the boxes that they're telling us we need to tick. They don't even know our systems because, let's be honest, they're not going to sit in our business for a month. And then we just throw money at then processes of doing documentation that feels pointless and senseless to everyone because we're just doing it to tick those boxes. And then what you're saying, and people listening, I'm biased as heck. I've known Keturah for 6 months. We do a lot of stuff together and I'm biased. But what you're saying is that you can justify your fee by saying, no, I'll pay for myself in terms of the amount of staff hours that I'll save you. Is there anything in that you're thinking, Keturah? Is there anything I'm missing there?
No, not at all. Oh, and I think, even just at the real, a granular level, if you think about the amount of times that you yourself as a business owner or a CEO or a leader, or even, the managers across your organization, the amount of times they're being called to ask how to do things versus actually having a really solid policy and procedure suite that talks to what your organization does, that's got your culture and your systems and everything built in. Just that alone, if you take your hourly rate and the amount of times amount of time your workforce spends on actually sharing how things need to be done, and also the risk that comes with that there's actually 17 different versions, everybody else's opinion of how that's done. Just refining your policies and procedures, just that one layer of your quality framework, and making it so they're written for you rather than just being a paraphrase of the standards so that you tick the box. Your procedure needs to say this, and so it says this. We provide person-centered services, and the standards say you must provide person-centered services. So we're done. How do you do that? If I said to a room full of people, cook me lunch, I'd get a lot of different lunches. And even if I said it has to be Italian, or even if I said it has to be a pasta dish, or even if I said it has to be carbonara, they're all going to have their own recipes. So if I'm not providing them with the recipe of what I expect from my organization, then I've got either all of those people coming to me going, how much salt do I put in? How many eggs is it? If I've got a really well-written policy and procedure, I can go in and say, can everyone go and cook me lunch? And everybody's going to cook me lunch that's, that aligns with me as an organization as to what I want that lunch to look like.
Yeah, that makes sense. It does. And it almost says that there's a danger in switching your quality person The people who are like, oh, I'm going to pay for an internal quality person. They're there for less than a year. Trust me, that job burns people out quicker than, I don't know, quicker than being a prison officer. Okay. Like that is not a job most people are going to want. So you're going to just change that person. Every time you change the person, they're going to bring in new things. I just don't think having an internal quality person is the way to go for most businesses up to say 40 staff. I look at the model of what you offer, and then I look at say what Tanya Gomez offers. So Tanya Gomez gets you through audit. Now for people who are just starting out, great. Just get me up and running, because in the early days, you just need to be compliant so you can survive. And then you can generate money, and then you can use that money to build better systems and better marketing and better everything. So in the early days, I can see why someone's just like, get me through audit. But there does come a scale where you actually need someone who's just going to make it work. And that's where someone like you comes in. So can I ask you some questions about how you've grown your business?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So about 6 months ago, you were a very small operator. You had, like, you were outstanding at your work, but you weren't 100% at capacity. Whereas right now, heck, you've got a lot on. You know, you can take a few people on, but gee, you're going to pick carefully who you work with. What were the steps you took to do that? Because I know you've done a lot of work.
Yeah, look, I think it's been a process, but probably practicing what I preach to a degree, and refining my systems, reviewing my non-billables and whether or not I actually needed to do them all, but also getting the right support, getting help for myself as someone who runs business to be able to think. Sometimes you're really in the weeds, and just having somebody else's eyes, fresh eyes on it to kind of give you a different perspective.
Okay, this is gold. So So people who are listening, they're running a team of between 1 and 7. Okay, they're the ones who really need to focus on getting rid of the non-billables, focus on the billables. Okay.
Yeah.
After you get to 7, you know what your processes are, and you're using AI and stuff to streamline a lot of non-billables. But what were the non-billable things that you decided to stop doing, or to change how you did them so that you could get back to business?
In a lot of cases, it was what I was spending my time on. So focusing on the value, and I don't just mean dollar value, because sometimes your return on your investment doesn't come straight back into your pocket. So really being able to assess the value of all of the tasks that I was undertaking. And yeah, look, I come back to risk assessment really, really often, but it's a key part of what I do in both my personal and my professional life. So understanding what the risk is as well, and doing a bit of a risk assessment of the work that I'm doing, and prioritizing the things that really need to be top of my list. And I think just in doing that, just in being reflective in that way, really helped for me to reassign tasks. And now at the point of trying to look at where I'm delegating, what I'm delegating, how I delegate.
Because you have more work than one person can do. So
I do.
So either systems need to change, or we need more people, and one of them is cheaper. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's funny about what you're saying is, as you grow, you do need to reassign how you spend your time. When I first started Keturah, I did a lot of networking events. I'd go to, ready, set, go and preach your stuff to people events. And I'd sit there, and I did get work from it, but I really hated the experience of all these different types of networking events, and how it was like just someone telling me how good they are. I'm like, why doesn't someone ask me what I want or what I need? And so then I went to these events, and I'd just sit with people and ask them, what do you need? And then they'd tell me, and I'd be like, sure, I'll make that happen. No worries at all. Here's a price. And that was great. Okay. That was in the early days, back when I was doing lots and lots of websites, like many, many dozens of websites a year for people. But then after a while, the networking events, I looked at how I was spending my time, and networking events are non-billable. So if you're driving 2 or 3 hours to go to a networking event, you've just written off a day, and your wife and kids are like, oh, I wonder where dad is, So I actually do 0 networking events now. Oh no, I do one. I'm going to Paul Bryan's conference once a year, because it's just outstanding. But apart from that, nothing else, because my time is better off spent on LinkedIn, just messaging the people who I already know, just asking them if they need anything, or just giving them resources. So I guess what you're describing is this process where in the early days, you're trying to find what works.
Yep.
And then you find it and then you rinse repeat. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, look, and I think there's absolutely, absolutely. I think there's also this maturity of systems. I think there's got to be an element of when you first start out, you know, you're taking notes on napkins, and you know you've got Outlook doing one thing and you've got something else doing something else, and so I think there's a maturity of the systems and the structures, and when you review them and refine them, it can make a huge amount of difference as well. So, you know, I look, I'm the same as you as far as absolutely, you know, the networking. I actually enjoy it, but I agree. I'm like, how many of these am I doing a month? And, you know, in the time that goes, I don't think they're incredibly valuable. I love connecting with people. But really, the other side of that is evolving and making sure that you're constantly assessing where you're at and where you can make those improvements and where you can streamline. It can make all the difference, because I think you end up where you're focused on the goal and you're just getting there with what you've got. And you strap your stuff on your back and then you pick extra bits up as you go and as you need them, but they don't necessarily talk to each other or work together. But yeah, so one of the things I did was streamline the systems I was using and actually do some research into finding something that meant that I didn't have to open up 7 different programs to send an invoice or to do something else, or to, you know, I'm emailing someone, but I want to, you know, I want to make sure that I've got a record of that, or you know, I want to chase them up in 2 weeks. So I created some systems around, and I think that's a common thing for people who are running organizations, is that you don't always go back. You don't always go back and refine.
No, you don't.
And sometimes it's because you're so deep in it.
That's right.
It's like, I don't have time. But the time that you actually save spending or investing that time to go back, reflect and go, what are we doing? We've, you know, this new part of the process came in and we just kind of stuck it in the middle there, rather than going, hang on a minute, let's go back and look at our end-to-end process, do a bit of a process map and go, our process now goes like this to get us to this end spot. How can we make it so that, what can we lose? What, you know, what safeguards do we have in place that are now
Keturah,
just
I hear
over the top?
Basically, you just justified why someone needs someone like you in their business. Because what happens is, otherwise, a year and a half later, people are ticking boxes, following processes, using 3 systems, when they just need someone to come and go, hold on guys, this is crazy. Let's just go and pay the big bucks for the proper software and save some staff time. People balk at like $1,000 a month or whatever for software. I run, like, say when I'm doing someone's, say, Google ads, I run them through like some really expensive software. It costs me the earth. But if I didn't have that software, it would cost me so much more time. And people are like, I can't believe you pay X amount of $100 just for this software for each client. I'm like, yeah, I know, but if I don't spend that money, their landing pages won't work. And who are they going to phone when things are breaking? Me. So it's all about saving me time. And I don't care if I pay $600 for this software, $1,000 for that software. I don't care. What I care about is my time. Now, if we take that and apply it to most NDIS businesses, it's not the director's time, it's the staff time. And that costs real dollars.
Absolutely. And timing's really important. Timing's really important with that as well. And look, it's never too late. But the longer you leave it, the more cost is involved. You've got to now transition. You know, we used to have 10 clients. Now we've got 120. I've now got to transition all of their information over, or we've got more staff to teach a new system all in one go, rather than it being future focused. If you've got goals for your organization for growth, implement the system now that's going to take you further, because changing it down the track is going to, it's going to be painful. Not suggesting it's not worth it. Completely different conversation than waiting to do it later.
It's like
and like
once,
you said,
do it right, sort of.
Do it once, do it well. Yep. And you know, you may have to come back and redo it, but set out to do it once and do it well, because the cost of redoing things can be massive. But the extra, like you were saying, you know, you think about the monthly cost of a platform or a system, translate it into your hourly rate, translate it into what that would save you, and you know, and do your due diligence, like do your research, go out and find the right system for you. And that might be based on how much time you're spending doing a task at the moment. You know, if it's payroll, then make sure that that's something that is feature rich in the system that you're looking at, so that it's already going to save you money, but from the first day that you implement it.
Yeah. This is great. I'm loving hearing this because I feel like, oh my goodness, people are going to benefit from this. I guess the systems you build when you're a one-person show are so different from when you've got two staff. Because
Absolutely.
when you got two staff, you need a level of oversight and accountability. So a bit more documentation. Then when you got about 10 staff, it's like, or say 8 to 10 staff, you have to redo everything because everything we had that was oversight and helpful, and it's just become bureaucratic disaster. So you rebuild it then. And then probably around between 30 and 50 staff, again, completely rebuild it at some point there, because what you had is no longer useful. Also, as time goes on, last year's software's useless to you. I remember I used to use Dragon software, like voice to text. I used that literally for 15 years, okay? I'd get the update. I thought it was the bee's knees. People thought I was super techie because I was using it like 15 years ago. Dragon software, compared with what I use now, is nowhere near as good. And what I use now costs me next to nothing. People can look it up. It's Whisperflow, WISPR, Flow.
Yep.
Cheap as chips, does a better job than my Dragon software. So you've got your business is growing, you've got times passing, therefore better products are coming out. But what I don't want to hear is say, for example, there's a business that I did some work with that they're on shift care, like every other second business, and their turnover would be somewhere between say 3 and 4 mil, and they're upset because shift care costs them about $800 a month. I'm like, guys, that $800 a month is cheap as chips. So you want to throw money at software, you want to throw money at professionals to implement your software, you want to throw money at someone like you, Keturah, who's going to go, what are you doing? This is crazy. Let's change this. Like, let's not have A, B, C, D. Let's just go straight from A to D by doing this. And I think the value you bring people is you ask the hard questions that they haven't been asking themselves. I think the barrier that you face is that you don't bring money in the door tomorrow. If I ran Google Ads for someone, I can demonstrate within a month. You paid X amount of dollars and we brought back 4 times X. Great, solved. You don't have that. You're like, hey, I brought you $0, but I saved you from being on the front page of the news. Like, that's less compelling, but it's probably just as important, yeah?
Quality's never been sexy, as far as being appealing for people. And, you know, I think a lot of people see it as you know, it's a bit of the fun police. But in reality, it's actually can be incredibly insightful. It's not just about highlighting the stuff that's going wrong all the time, because you can learn just as much from the stuff that's going really well and how you implement and embed that across your organization rather than it being isolated to a team or an individual who has a particular approach that everybody loves, that's come up with some great streamlined way of doing things. Yeah, it is. And look, there are some really quick wins that you can turn around. Like I said before, go in and work with organizations who are battling under the weight of really big, clunky systems that they don't understand. So they're spending as much mental as physical time trying to navigate them or work within them. Sometimes the quick relief is to go, if this is in place purely for compliance, it's not actually adding to your level of, you're compliant or you're not, right? You know, you might be best practice, but best practice is quality management. Best practice is not passing an audit. That's next level. That's when you've got quality systems built for your organization. But just being compliant, it is a tick box. So sometimes people have got all of these massive, convoluted, confusing systems in place that going in and saying, do you use this? Is it meaningful to your organization? How could we make it meaningful? Or can we make it meaningful? Maybe it actually just doesn't mean anything to your organization, to what you need to be successful and compliant. And the relief could just be you don't actually need it. There can be an element of cleaning out, and there can be an element of quick wins. But yeah, it just depends on where people are at and what they've got, what they're battling with.
Wow, that needs to go on a website. The compliance lady who reduces your workload. Heck, if people don't buy from you, then we've got problems. Okay, so
yeah, people think I'm there to add more to the plate.
That's right. The podcast is not over. I just want people to have your contact details. So it's Keturah Charlesworth at Quality HQ. If you're driving, can't write that down, send me a LinkedIn message. You're on LinkedIn, and basically you solve people's compliance and the quality at the same time as a long-term thing at a lowish cost, but a long-term thing. So I guess let's wrap up with something really important. It's like, Keturah, I think you undervalue how much of an impact you're having. Just the more you talk, the more of a resource it's just so clear that you are to people, because we need people like you to come and say, stop doing more, start doing the right things less. We need that at a level. Like, that's crazy. Like, so I feel like the contribution you have in NDIS world is far outweighing what you can imagine, you know. And also, I know I've sent a couple of people in the past say, hey, go and talk to Keturah, find out what you need to know. And you've treated them so well. So like, I just love to acknowledge you're doing good things. You're like the voice in the wilderness going, guys, do less, you know, like, and thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for telling people to do less. Thank you for telling people to do less, but really well. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. No, it is. I get it. And, you know, I understand. I've worked for providers in that quality role, as you mentioned, that nobody wants. I understand what it's like to be in that situation, and that standards change and things change and the sector changes. Sometimes to a point where you feel like you can't keep up. But there's this element of confidence in understanding the systems that you've got in place already that makes that much less overwhelming and confronting. Because when you understand your systems and how they align with standards or compliance or whatever it is that you're aligning with, it just makes so much more sense as to how you would then adjust them. So this has changed, and I understand my system. So if we do these three things, we're there. Let's plan that. Let's do that. When you don't understand the system to begin with, you don't understand the framework you've got in place. It's almost like you've got to go back to square one. So what have we got, and how does that work, and what does that mean, and how is it compliant now? So how I can figure out how it needs to meet the changes just becomes a whole, project, end-to-end project, rather than an improvement.
I hear you. And that's why you can't really do compliance well or quality well unless you involve the director, because he or she was there at the start. They know why the system's so convoluted and stuffed up now. I think the key thing from today for people is do less, do it well. And if you don't know how to do that, there's people like Keturah who are out there to help you. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today, Keturah.
No worries. Before I go, the best email to get me on, rather than trying to spell my name, is probably hello@qualityhq.com.au.
Love it. Good work. Love it. All right. Bye, guys.
Oh, thanks.